Good morning. Happy Friday. Welcome on into Let's Bet It. Lauren Jabari here with Mark Zinno. Zinno, it is a Friday. I know you had quite an eventful day yesterday. Can you please share with us what the heck happened yesterday with your day?
Lauren, I mean, I'm not exactly in the right frame of mind to share this emotional experience with you and our audience. But the short version is that there's one particular airline out there that I will absolutely never set foot on again. And it is eerily similar to the name of the country in which we are both sitting. From that standpoint, they could buy me a plane to make up for the mistakes they've made, and I would burn it to the ground in front of them. That's how much I despise this airline here going forward. Let's just start with the whole trip was a family vacation. Every year my mother books this family vacation for her kids and all of her grandkids, and we all go. And this year she decided to do it in the middle of BFE, Pennsylvania, right? And so the closest airport to where we were going in the Pocono Mountains was Scranton. I don't know if you know anything about Scranton. Scranton University. Go. Well, Scranton is also the home of the Yankees AAA farm team. It's the other claim to fame that they have, the Scranton or the Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders. So anyway, my flight going to Scranton from Atlanta, I have a 7 a.m. flight out on Sunday morning, and I get the email at 11 p.m. the night before that my flight has been delayed, forcing me to miss my connection in Charlotte to get to Scranton. So now they have to reroute me through Philadelphia because there's only one flight a day that goes there. And then I had to drive 2.5 hours from Philadelphia to Scranton. Here's the rub. The rental car that I booked was in Scranton, Pennsylvania, to be returned to Scranton, Pennsylvania. Well, if you haven't done this experience before, it is super expensive to take a rental car from the place you get it from to drop it off to a different place. So $1,200 later after the rental that I dropped off back in Scranton after leaving Philadelphia, I get to the Scranton airport, check the bag in. I'm sitting there, and an email pops up that my flight, the second half of my flight, so I had a 2-leg flight from Scranton to Charlotte to Atlanta. The second half of my flight, which is supposed to depart at 10 p.m. Eastern, was now departing at 1:15 in the morning. I have 2 small children with me. I have my twin boys who have now been in a car for an hour on the way to the airport, been sitting at the airport for 2 hours, and now are about to get on a plane, and they want me to sit in the airport for another 3.5 hours at 10 o'clock at night to get these kids home. On the flight from Scranton to Charlotte, I get the email that now the flight is canceled. Canceled. So now, knowing I have like a billion things to do today, and I had planned to be back last night, I get to the counter, and they want to book me on a flight on Saturday at 10 p.m. I'm like, let me get this straight. Your plan to fix this is to leave me in Charlotte for 2 days to send me back home. And well, that's the only thing we have available, sir. And so I'm like, okay, do me a favor. Get me my bag. I'm getting a rental car and driving home. Well, sir, we can't give you your bag. What do you mean you can't give me my bag? Just like go to somebody with the gloves and the sticks down there and tell them to go get my bag and just bring it to me. This is really simple. Nope, it wasn't really simple. They kept my bag. I got in a rental car, drove home from Charlotte last night. Another rental car, by the way. Another rental car. Yeah. So needless to say,
you still don't have your stuff?
No, I don't have my stuff, which is why you're seeing this sort of overcast shadow on me, because I don't have my ring light, which was in my bag protected, that I checked on the plane.
Oh, I think you need a coffee or a drink at this point because that is an absolute shitstorm. So
I
cheers
mean,
to you, Zeno,
I
for
can't
making
even
it
tell you. I
through
can't even tell
and
you.
being on the show this morning because that's a lot. That's a lot to deal with.
I mean, just the whole the lack of. And by the way, both of the delays, mind you, were crew related, which is 100% on the airline. It's not weather related. It's not anything else. It's not maintenance or routine stuff. It was crew related. So now I got to call American Airlines, and they told me on Twitter
Give them
when
a
I had
piece of
tweeted that.
your mind.
Well, listen, they said to me, we will certainly make accommodations. I said, if you're talking about flight vouchers, don't even start the conversation. If it doesn't start with refund or reimburse, you're wasting my time.
I'm
So,
so
yeah.
sorry to laugh at your expense, but you know what? That's been a night. You deserve to have yourself a day today. It is
I mean,
Friday.
I
We're
can
starting fresh this morning.
let me give you the other kicker of the story real quick. You'll appreciate this. So again, I have
Yes,
my twin
please.
boys with me. So we fly to Philadelphia on the way there. We have to get up at 4:30 in the morning to make a 7 o'clock flight to get out to go to Philadelphia because I got to drive 2.5, almost 3 hours to get to the vacation spot afterwards. So of course, the kids get up and they're wired from the jump and they're wired on every flight and they're bouncing off the plane for the whole 2.5 hours through Philadelphia. We literally had to walk to the rental car place because I got on the wrong shuttle because I didn't realize that at Philadelphia Airport, which I've never been in my life, that there's a certain shuttle for this rental car company and a different one for this one. It's not like Atlanta where they just take you to all one place, right? So the kids are bouncing off the walls the entire car ride, this, that, and the other. We get within 15 minutes of the destination. I turn around and look in the back seat. Both of them dead to the world. Dead to the world. After 3 hours of bouncing off the walls in the back of the car and refusing to put
Oh
their
my
seatbelts on and me threatening their lives 17 times over. By the time we had gotten there, 15 minutes out, dead, both of them.
He's having himself a day. You need a sleep. You need sleep. Finish that coffee, and then after the show, you need to have yourself a cocktail at about 10:45 in the morning because you
No, what we need to
deserve
do is
it
cash.
at this
We need
point.
to cash tickets. That's always makes me feel better.
Let's cash some tickets today, Zeno. Let's get into MLB because I think that's going to make us all feel a little bit better about our day. We always start with is the
Let's hope
trend your
so.
friend. So we'll start it out in New York with the Mets run line. The Marlins are 0-10 on the run line in their last 10 games at home. Is this trend your friend?
Well, given their starting pitcher tonight, I wouldn't go. I wouldn't do that. If they are a dog on the run line, getting a point and a half, which I think they are, I would take that. But it's Sandy Alcantara on the mound for Miami, and betting against him is a bad idea. So,
Yeah.
in any sense here, I don't. If I'm getting plus 1.5, sure, back that. But other than that, I wouldn't go against Alcantara in any size, way, shape, or form.
What about the Jays Tigers? No runs first inning. We know how hot the NRFI has been
Okay.
this July, especially.
Okay.
The NRFI for the Tigers is 8-0 in their last 8 at Rogers Center. Do you take this? Is this your friend or are we not friending?
Okay, so I am on this game in a different fashion for my play of the day, and you have a play in it as well. And I looked at the NRFI, and I'll just say this much. You are talking about the hottest hitting team in baseball right now in the Toronto Blue Jays. They're top 3 in hits, runs, total bases, average, slugging, and OPS. The Tigers are starting Brian Garcia, who's just called up from, I think, Tacoma, wherever their AAA team is,
Yeah.
as a spot starter. He's a reliever just to make a spot start. Now, the one upside for Detroit is that their bullpen is top 5 in baseball this year. So if they're only going to get a bullpen game, it might play into their favor a little bit, but still, this is a dangerous NRFI matchup here just because Toronto has been scoring at such a high clip as of late. And they're going up against an unaccomplished pitcher who's making a spot start, a quick start, getting called up from AAA. So a lot of variance there you can't eliminate.
Yeah. What about this NRFI? Reds Orioles. The Reds NRFI is 8-0 in their last 8 at home against the AL.
Yeah, and the Orioles are not a great first inning run scored team. I looked at this, but I didn't see a starter posted this morning when I looked for
Yeah.
was it for the Orioles or I know Mike Minor is starting. I think he's starting for the Reds. the Orioles hadn't listed a starter yet, and so that's what I'm sort of
They
waiting
haven't listed a
for.
starter yet.
Yeah, and that's I would play that depending on who the starter is for the Orioles. So that let's wait and see on that one.
Wait and see. Last one for you. Raised money
Mhm.
line. They are 7-0 in their last 7 against the Cleveland Guardians. Sometimes you just have another team's number.
They probably do. They're also starting Shane McClanahan tonight or Shane Bieber starting
Yeah.
against who's the other starter there? You got to give me a second here. I forgot the matchup off the top of my head, but I did look at this game. Yeah, it's
Springs.
Shane Bieber versus Springs. So Bieber is the best starter for the Guardians at this point. You know, I would take Tampa on the run line in this spot. Getting one and a
Okay.
half would make me feel a little bit more comfortable there. And you're talking straight money line bet versus Tampa having the number.
Straight money
If I'm
line.
going to Yeah, I mean, they're minus 118. Cleveland is plus 100 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. But I'd rather take the run and a half in this spot, even though I'm paying more juice, given Tampa Bay's sort of propensity to, as you say, have this team's number.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's move on to YRFIs and NRFIs. Yes runs first inning, no runs
Uh-huh.
first inning. The NRFI again had a winning day, 6-4 yesterday. The NRFI is now hitting over a 55% clip in July. I think if you bet all NRFIs in the month of July, you're up like 20 something units at this point, which is wildly impressive.
That makes the Murphy King very
You're on,
happy.
yeah, you're on a NRFI today. Speaking of, with the Mets. Miami. Why do
Yeah,
you like the NRFI here in this game? It is a little juicy.
it's heavily juicy, but I want to buy into it because again, it's Sandy Alcantara going up against Chris Bassett. And these are teams right now that do not just don't give up runs in the first inning. I mean, that's really what it
Yeah.
boils down to. I know the game is down to Miami, and the Mets are much better at home than they are on the road. But when I get Alcantara, I'm going to buy into it. When you get a high level starter like this, and the Mets have all high level starters, and Chris Bassett has faced the Marlins 3 times already this year, and he's yet to give up a first inning run in any of those 3 games. So I get the pitching matchup I want, which is why this is so heavily juiced. I don't want to run from this. As we've talked about repeatedly, there are certain situations where I'm willing to pay into the juice. I'm paying over $1.50 on this one. It's to me, I'm not scared about it. This should work out in our favor here as Alcantara and Bassett will do their job in the first inning.
Sometimes the juice, Zeno, is worth the
Is
squeeze. A
worth the
glass of orange
squeeze.
juice
Tell him,
actually
girl.
sounds
Tell him,
really
girl.
good right now.
Tell him.
Yeah, juice is worth the squeeze, baby. Speaking of juice, I'm kind of on a juicy prop. Alek Manoah over 5.5 strikeouts. I
Yeah.
got that one on DraftKings. It's at minus 150 right now on FanDuel. It's actually set at 6.5 for plus money, plus 104. So you can kind of pick your poison there. I picked to go with a little bit more juicy prop for a lower number at 5.5 on DraftKings. He has 6+ strikeouts in 3 straight in 5 of his last 6 games. And the one thing that makes me a little bit skeptical about this is the amount of lefties that Detroit has in their lineup. They have 6 to 7 depending on the day, and his splits are pretty severe with a way lower K rate to lefties, but he started to get better at that recently. And the lefties in Detroit's lineup have a pretty high strikeout rate as well, because it's the Detroit Tigers, and that's what they do. They strike out. They are averaging 8.44 Ks per game this season. And the last 3 games, the Tigers are averaging 9.67 strikeouts. Now you look at a guy like Alek Manoah, and he has 42 Ks in his last 45 innings pitched over his last 7 games played. So all he needs to really do is get into the 6th inning, I guess 6 1/3, 6 and maybe 2/3 innings to hit this prop. And I know it's juicy, laying 50 cents. If the juice ain't worth the squeeze for you, get it on FanDuel, 6.5 strikeouts, plus money, plus 104. But I just felt a little bit more confident with that lower prop number at 5.5, and I'm willing to lay the juice for it. I have one other strikeout prop, but it is my play of the day, so I'm going to save it for a little bit because I know we're going to have Roddy on in a second. I know you have one more bet, the under in the Seattle-Houston game. So tell me why you like not very many runs being scored here in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I had contemplated making this my POD. I got a lot of confidence in it. I just would have been more comfortable with an 8 necessarily than a 7.5. But still, let's back this here with Justin Verlander going for the Astros against Robbie Ray of the Mariners. Now, there are only a handful of teams this year that have been profitable above 53% to the under. They
Yeah.
both Oh, the Houston Astros, the most profitable under team in Major League Baseball this year, and the Seattle Mariners. So I get two high level starters here. I couldn't find a line for the first 5 innings, and that was really where I wanted to go with it. At least FanDuel didn't have it when I was looking earlier this morning, but I think that's also a good play. A first five with these two starters. Don't let the bullpens get involved in any size, way, shape, or form. You're probably going to get 3.5 at that number, and it might even be juiced to the under at that number as well. But I trust both these guys to go deep in the game. Robbie Ray got banged around by the Astros last time, so I'm sure he'll have a better outing this time against them. And Verlander has been money the entire season. So let's get this under 7.5 here, just minus 115.
Under 7.5, baby. Let's go. Okay, we talked about ACC Heisman voting yesterday and just who we think, kind of has an edge here heading into the season. Today, we're talking about all of the teams in the ACC as we bring in Roddy Jones, ESPN and ACC network analyst. He was a 4-year starter and captain with Georgia Tech from 2008 to 2011. Roddy, how are you? Happy Friday.
I'm fantastic. Happy Friday. Yeah, it's we're at the end of the week. I'm fantastic. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. I'm really excited to just dive in here to the ACC. So let's start with Pitt for a second. Obviously, they're nursing noticeable departures, Kenny Pickett being one of them. Jordan Addison left for the NFL and USC respectively. So you just look at Kedon Slovis transferring, taking over under center. How do you feel about Pitt this season? Because a guy like Slovis, maybe not like the most talented guy, but he's definitely a gamer, right?
Yeah, I feel good about Pitt, and I was actually kind of surprised that Miami was voted to win the Coastal because when you look at this Pitt team, they've had some really noticeable departures. Obviously, you just mentioned Kenny Pickett being the biggest one, Jordan Addison very publicly leaving to go to USC. But when you look at this Pitt team, they've got 5 starters back on the offensive line. They've got a really good running back room. They're unproven at receiver, but there's enough talent there. But the biggest reason that you should be excited about Pitt is that defense. The defense was fantastic a year ago. They'll have probably the second best defensive line in the league behind Clemson. So overall, I feel really good about Pitt. I know what they're going to be defensively. I think they're going to be able to run the football with that offensive line and those running backs. And you mentioned Kedon Slovis. Between the quarterback competition between he and Nick Patty, whoever wins that, I think they're going to be in good shape offensively. Kedon Slovis was the Pac-12 Offensive Freshman of the Year in 2019. He was first team All Pac-12 quarterback in 2020, and he got hurt after 3 games last year, and then USC kind of imploded around him. So he's certainly a talented quarterback. And then Nick Patty drove right down the field against Michigan State, broke his collarbone diving into the end zone. So it's not like he couldn't move the ball when he was in. So I feel really good about Pitt. I think they're going to be a really good team, and they're my pick to win the Coastal.
Ooh.
Roddy, I'm listening. There's a lot of reasons to back that team. But there's another team, as you mentioned, Miami picked to win the Coastal. A bigger impact for them. Year 2 of Tyler Van Dyke, who looked fantastic last year when he came in, or Mario Cristobal coming in to sort of reinvigorate the entire program. What's going to be more of an impact?
I think Tyler Van Dyke's year 2 is a bigger impact. That's not downplaying the impact that Mario Cristobal is going to have. But part of the reason that Mario Cristobal at Miami is going to work is because Manny Diaz left that place stacked with talent, including at the quarterback position, where they're 3 deep with guys that could start for him, with Tyler Van Dyke being the guy up top. They've got a really, really good, talented running back room, Jalen Knight and Don Chaney, and then they've got a couple of transfers coming in that'll really help them as well. And then they're talented at receiver, albeit young. So I think Miami is going to be really good. I think Tyler Van Dyke is going to be the best quarterback in the league by the end. My questions about Miami more come defensively, because last year they made improvements on defense, but they were a poor tackling team for probably the first half of the year, and then they got better, and they'll still be pretty youthful at some spots on defense. And I think in particular at linebacker, they're not quite up to the standard that they've had in the past. They need to find a pass rusher, although I think Jafari Harvey has a chance to be that guy. And then they need to solidify some things in the secondary. So again, like it sounds like I'm saying the same thing as I said with Pitt. I think Miami's going to be really good. The difference between Miami and Pitt, it may come down to the fact that Miami plays Clemson in the regular season and Pitt doesn't. So that could ultimately be the deciding factor in the Coastal.
Yeah, you look at a guy like Tyler Van Dyke, and obviously seeing what he was able to do last season with Derek King being injured, he's now 35-1 to win the Heisman this year. How do you feel about those odds? And maybe taking a guy like him to be an outside pick to win the Heisman Trophy?
I think it's probably a pretty good long shot to go with to win the Heisman. Now, the thing that you don't know is typically to win the Heisman, you got to win a lot of games. And like, will Miami at
Yeah.
the end of the year be a 10-win team, a 9-win team? I think 9's possible. 10, I'm not quite sure, just because of not only the strength of the league, the fact that they play Pitt and Clemson. Both of those games come late in the season. I believe they're both in November. Pitt's the last game of the year for them. They go to Texas A&M early in the year. So if they're sitting there at 8-4, you're not getting an 8-4 quarterback winning the Heisman. But if they're able to catch fire, they beat Texas A&M in September, they're able to get down the stretch, and they're, maybe a one-loss team going into that Clemson game, then that train could be rolling enough where it might be a good little long shot.
Right, let's pivot to the odds-on favorite to win the ACC once again, and that is Clemson. Now, people forget it was a down year last year for Clemson. That's still a top 5 defense in the nation last year, and it's going to be top 5 in the nation again, which is why I think they're an excellent pick at 12-1 odds or better to win the national championship, because if they win the ACC, guess what? They're going back to the college football playoff once again. The real questions are around DJ Uiagalelei and what he can do for this offense, but they're bringing in a new scheme offensively, and they do have Cade Klubnik, who is going to at least put some pressure on DJU. So how does this team look offensively this year, and are they good enough to be a college football playoff team from an offensive standpoint?
Yeah, I think yes, they are good enough to be a college football playoff team. Certainly, I think we need to sort of contextualize the year that they had last year, because they still won 10 games, and the teams that they lost to, they lost to NC State, who was a 9-win team, didn't get a chance to win their 10th in the bowl game. They lost to Pitt, who was an 11-win team, won the ACC, and they lost to Georgia, who won 14 games last year. So it's not like they were losing to scrubs. Now, did they play close games? Yes, they played Georgia Tech close. They played Boston College close. They played Louisville close. All 3 of those teams were down inside the 15-yard line with a chance to win it at the end. And yet this Clemson team found a way to win with an offense that was anemic for much of the year. The offense evolved last year as they got healthier and got more reps on the offensive line. That running back room was healthy at the end of the year. Will Shipley was banged up for a large portion of the year, so Phil Maffa, Mikey Dukes had to shoulder most of the carries. When they were all healthy at the end of last year, look at the bowl game against Iowa State. That was an offense that was average. They moved the ball on the ground. DJ Uiagalelei was okay in that game. He certainly didn't set the world on fire. So offensively, if they can do that, if they can just be average, running the football, using that offensive line, then they're the best team in the league, and they're certainly a college football playoff team. And if they can get good quarterback play, then they're a national championship contender. So the question is, how do they manage the DJ Uiagalelei, Cade Klubnik battle? It's not really a battle. DJ is going to start, but how do they manage that situation? And that's going to be the $1 million question. And to be honest, I don't know. Cade Klubnik will play in the first game. That's what I've been told, against Georgia Tech. How much and how much may be determined by how well he plays. But it's not a situation where you had like a Kelly Bryant, who was a college football playoff quarterback, took them there.
Right.
And then you had Trevor Lawrence, who was a future number 1 overall draft pick, sitting behind him. This is no offense to Cade Klubnik, but he's not that guy. Like, he's not talent-wise, he's not there. So I don't know how they're going to manage that situation.
You talked about I was actually going to ask you something similar to that, because you talked about they need to take advantage of the run game. When you have a guy like DJU, who has said now he's lost 30 pounds over the last 6 months. He said he has no sweets. He hasn't eaten anything unhealthy, and he's looking to shed a few more pounds before, the start of the season. And he said he can move better. He's going to be a bigger threat in the run game too. How much do you think that commitment and sacrifice to get your body right says about a player? And how do you think that kind of translates to the field when you're looking at a guy like Klubnik too, that's under him? And right now, Cade is at 60-1 odds to win the Heisman. Like, this guy's not going to be getting enough snaps to win the Heisman Trophy this year, right?
No, he's not going to win the Heisman Trophy this year.
Yeah.
It's like Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson didn't win the Heisman Trophy. Neither did Travis Etienne. So, like, Cade Klubnik's not going to win it this year, especially with the fact that he's going to be sitting on the bench.
It makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah. Okay.
They've got CJ Spiller. Like, we can go down the list of great Clemson players that didn't win it. Cade Klubnik's not going to win it. But I think that DJ's dedication to the craft, to getting in shape this year, to being more mobile. I think it shows a maturity that maybe he didn't have coming into last year. You know, he's getting all the hype. He had the Dr. Pepper and the Bojangles NIL deals. He was coming off of a year where he started 2 games and was great, threw for more yards against Notre Dame than anybody in the history of college football has thrown for against Notre Dame. So I think some of that made him think, or could have made him think, hey, I've got this. Like, this is going to be easy. So I think it shows a dedication. How does it show up on the field? Yeah, that's the $1 million question. From what we saw in the spring, which is the spring game, it didn't appear that the accuracy had been cured. Now, it's a very small snapshot, but it looked very similar to last year, where he's missing easy throws, especially on early downs, to put them in medium third and longs. So can he correct that? Because I think if he corrects that, there's always going to be, there were the wow throws last year, the wow plays last year. So there are always going to be those, but can he make the layups? So I think it may make him a little more mobile in the run game, but they don't need him to be a big running threat. They've got that. They've got great backs. They need him to hit the layups in the pass game.
Roddy, just a question that's very Atlanta-based and going to your alma mater. It's the week after Thanksgiving. Is Jeff Collins still have a job?
That's a $1 million question. Probably multi-million-dollar question for Georgia Tech.
And for Jeff Collins, for that matter.
Yeah, exactly. So here's what I think Georgia Tech fans want to see. They want to see progress, and that progress has to come in a couple of ways. One of them has to be in the win column. You've had 3 straight 3-win seasons. It's not going to cut it. Georgia Tech fans were aware of what the transformation of that roster was going to look like. Even the most measured of Georgia Tech fans, which I would consider myself, said, hey, by year 4, you should be approaching bowl status. So they need to approach that this year. They don't need to get there because the schedule's brutal. I mean, they start with Clemson, they play Western Carolina, they get Ole Miss at home, they go to UCF, and then they get Pittsburgh. That's a brutal 5-game stretch. It's probably the toughest 5 weeks in the country through the first week of October.
Especially road-wise, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
So I think it purely depends on how they respond to September. If they win, let's say they end up 2-2 or 3-2 after the first 3 games, that would be an incredible start. How do you handle that success? Let's say you're 1-4 after 5 games. How do you handle that failure? So if they can end up looking like a team that's closer to the rest of the pack. You can't get shut out by Georgia, and they don't play Notre Dame this year, but you can't get shut out by, let's say, Clemson at the beginning. You have to appear closer to the top of the league, and you have to win at least 4 games. So if they can do those 2 things, then yes. If not, then it's going to be tough, because at the end of last year, Todd Stansbury, the athletic director, is having to come out and give votes of confidence to Jeff Collins. That's never a good sign for a coach going into a year where you've got a brutal schedule and you need results.
For you, when you look at all of the teams in the ACC, obviously we just talked about 3 and then 4th, Georgia Tech, but who for you is a sleeper team to watch in the ACC this season that we might not be thinking about right away when you look at the ACC?
So the one that I think needs to be talked about more, that we haven't talked about much, that we don't talk about much, is the team that won the Atlantic last year. It's Wake Forest. I mean, we kind of dismissed Wake Forest as sort of a one-year wonder. And yes, they won a bunch of close games, had to win the Syracuse game in overtime. NC State went down to the wire. But Wake Forest isn't going to blow people out consistently. They just don't have the talent to do that. But they do find ways to win games. They've got 20 starters back from the team last year. And the 2 guys that are not starters that are coming back is a 7th-year senior in Javionte Nash, who would have started for them at left tackle last year, but tore his ACL. So he's inserted. And then Donovan Green, who's
Stan Wilder played offensive tackle for
exactly. Look, they got dudes that are like 27 over there. But Donovan Green was the guy that we were talking about coming into last year as being the next breakout receiver for Wake Forest. He gets hurt in preseason. A.T. Perry ends up being that guy. But now Donovan Green comes back. Defensively, they had issues last year. There's no 2 ways around that. But I think overall, they've replaced the defensive coordinator. Brad Lambert comes in. They're going to play a little different style. I think they'll be a little more aggressive. So I think it'll complement what they do on offense really well. And Wake Forest is a team that I would look at, and there's no reason why they can't repeat if they're able to beat Clemson. They got to get over that hump, because I don't think they can win the league or win that side of the league this year without beating Clemson. And then the other team, the one in the Coastal that I would look at, who may have probably the best long shot odds to win the league, is North Carolina. We were premature anointing North Carolina, and I say we as the general we in last year. They lose Sam Howell, but Gene Chizik comes in on defense, and they needed a different voice on that defense because they were so disjointed at times last year. But Mac Brown has been amassing talent ever since he arrived in Chapel Hill. Those 4- and 5-star guys that he's been getting for a few years are now sophomores and juniors. So they've matured a little bit. I think offensively they'll be fine. They'll get good quarterback play. They've got one of the best receivers in the country in Josh Downs. And they've got a really interesting a few transfers coming in on both sides of the ball. So I think North Carolina is probably a team that we were too high on last year and maybe not high enough on coming into this year. They're the third best team in the Coastal right now to me, but they're the one with the biggest upside when you look at the potential.
I like it. Okay, before we let you go, I just want to ask you one more question. Not about the ACC this year, but about your playing years, because you put up some stats, my friend. I mean, come on now. Like, you were part of the 2009 ACC team that beat Clemson. What do you remember about that year, that team, and what you guys were able to do?
Well, it was a lot of fun because we won a bunch of games. We were able to win the ACC championship. But I think overall, we were a team in 2008. That was Paul Johnson's first year that was really young, and we didn't really know what we were doing, especially on offense. Defensively, we were more mature and pretty good. The next year, it sort of flipped, where offensively, we all kind of came into our own. We had guys like Demarius Thomas on that team, the late Demarius Thomas, who was just a great player, great person. Josh Nesbitt, who's now a Georgia Tech Hall of Famer, was our quarterback, just tough as nails, a guy that was fantastic. Derek Morgan, who were ACC Players of the Year in 2008 and 2009, respectively. So it was just a great collection of guys. It was a lot of fun. Although the championship game, the thing I remember the most about the championship game is that we won the game and CJ Spiller was the MVP because the dude went off. Like, he was incredible that game. It was like one of those games where when the offense was off the field, we were all kind of looking at the Jumbotron or trying to see the field to see what CJ Spiller was going to do next, because he was dynamic in that game.
I love it. Roddy, thank you so much for coming on, taking your time, giving us your knowledge of the ACC. We so appreciate it. And we look forward to chatting with you in the future. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, Lauren, Mark, really appreciate you guys having me. See y'all.
Take care.
See you. That was Roddy Jones, ESPN ACC Network analyst. Such a good dude. Love that.
Yeah, no, I would piggyback him, at least with Wake Forest team total overs. When they're not playing a high-level defensive team, they're going to score, just like they did last year. They can put up 40 and 50 in a heartbeat. So that's one way I would look to play Wake Forest, as a team total over. But I wouldn't – and I would tell you this, Clemson at minus 120, maybe the best odds you will see on them all year long, because as soon as they snap a ball and win a football game, that thing's going to get heavier and heavier and heavier in the minus column, and you're never going to see those odds again. So if you want to back Clemson, I would do it before they start this season at close to even money.
Totally. So if you want to get it, lock it in right now, here and now. Okay, let's get into 3-star play of the day. So Pickswise.com, Zeno, who do we have for our 3-star play of the day today?
We got a couple of baseball plays up on the site, as well as a couple of different golf plays, including a live golf from our own Diane Knox-Ballas. So a run line play and a money line pick as well, both in MLB. Go to Pickswise.com, see all of the write-ups we have there.
A lot of action going on Pickswise.com right now, guys. Don't miss out. Check it out, Pickswise.com. All right, our best bets of the day. Let's get into it. I'll let you go first. Obviously, you're betting the Blue Jays at Rogers Center today. How do you like to bet that game?
All right, we're going to take a team total over 5 here, and it's priced pretty favorably, given that the Toronto Blue Jays are the Toronto Blue Jays are in the top 3 in offense this year in runs, hits, total bases, average, slugging percentage, and OPS. Bottom line, this team scores runs and does it at will. The Detroit Tigers have called up Brian Garcia from Toledo to make his first ever Major League Baseball start after 73 career relief appearances, a spot where Toronto here will take advantage early and often. Now, I know that this will be a bullpen game because with his first start, I would expect that Detroit will probably get him 3 or 4 innings and then get him out of there. Detroit does have a good bullpen, but I still trust Toronto's offense at home at the Rogers Center here enough to back them for over 5 in this game.
Yeah, and I liked that Alek Manoah strikeout prop over 5.5 at -150. Got that on DraftKings. At FanDuel, you could get it at -6.5 at +104 at Rogers Center. But my best bet of the day is another strikeout prop. Surprise, surprise. Bailey Falter over 4.5 Ks and only laying 20 cents for it at -120. I wanted to get a low number on him, and I did. He's gone for 5+ strikeouts in his 3 straight starts. Now, I feel like anytime teams play Pittsburgh, you just have to fade them in terms of strikeout props. Obviously, you look at who's on the mound, but Pittsburgh's K rate against left-handed pitchers is massive. We just need Falter to get to at least like 4, maybe 5 innings to get to 5 strikeouts, and I think that he's going to be able to do that. He has 26 strikeouts in his last 26 2/3 innings pitched. Basically, all you need is 5 innings. That's it. That's all we need from this guy. He's capable of hitting this number. And Pittsburgh right now is averaging 9.30 Ks per game this season. Last game, they got punched out 10 times. So to be honest with you, I'm not completely worried about Falter hitting this number at 4.5. It's a low number and not too juicy, only laying 20 cents for it. Sign me up, baby. Let's go. Sign me up, baby, for Bailey Falter. Over 4.5. Strikeouts at -120. I got that one on FanDuel. So yes, that's it for us today, guys. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to Pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. For Mark Zinno, I'm Lauren Jabara. Zinno, I hope you have a better day today. Don't fly again for like another week or 2, okay?
Yeah.
Have yourself a coffee, make yourself a cocktail.
Planted firmly here in Atlanta. I'm not going anywhere.
Yes. And let's hit some bets today. The day is going to get better. You know where, when you hit rock bottom, Zinno, the only place to go is up. Oh. All right. That's it for us. Have a great one, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Let's get it. Let's bet it.